What's going on, everybody? It is Chris Aiken from Aftershocks, and just wanted to remind you before we give you this next great interview that you should be subscribed to the CMS Podcast Network, cmspn.com. That is the web address. You can watch, you can listen, you can subscribe. Everything you need to do to catch not only this episode, but everything that we've done in the past. It's all over there on the CMS Podcast Network, as well as great shows from the Classic Metal Show, Shockwave Skull Sessions, Talk Toomey, and of course, Aftershocks TV. So sign up today and you will never be without entertainment again. All right, enough of this. Let me give you the interview you came here to see.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into Talk Toomey episode 278 here on the CMS Podcast Network. That is cmspn.com for more episodes like this one. This week's guest is Matt Brandyberry of From Ashes to New. Latest album is Panic, and it is one album that will let you know that new metal is back. And I know you guys love to hear that. Very thankful to have Matt on the podcast. A very long conversation, so I will just leave you with this. Make sure to head over to cmspn.com, where you can find more shows like this one, like Aftershocks, the Classic Metal Show, Drag the Waters, Talk Toomey, and the Shockwave Skull Sessions podcast, hosted by none other than Bob Nalbandian. So without any more of my ramblings, let's talk to Matt Brandyberry of From Ashes to New. Guys, we got Matt of From Ashes to New on the podcast. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Not too bad. Are you up there in Pennsylvania right now, hanging out?
I am, man. We just got some snow. Like this doesn't happen when I'm on tour, so I'm guessing it's just waiting for me to get home and just be here and just dump snow all over the place. So, but yeah, man, we're enjoying it, man. Just I've been working on some stuff digitally. You know what I mean? Just I got a little studio here at home, so just been hanging out here and working on stuff.
Nice, man. I kind of feel like there's like a small scene up there in like the Lancaster area. Like it isn't like Breaking Ben from up there, and then like the guys in Cold are up there now. It's like kind of a crazy time up there.
Wait, the dudes from Cold are up here now?
He's somewhere up there, yeah. Really?
I have to check that out. That would make sense if Scooter and Ben did something together there. Yeah, for Ben, I don't know about the rest of the guys because they're all from different bands and stuff, but Ben's from the Wilkes-Barre area, which is about 2.5 hours from me. Yeah. And you got Hailstorms from Red Lion, which is like the York area, which is like 15 minutes. I actually used to live in Red Lion. I mean, so, there's a lot of bands from this area. I mean, I could go down a list and we could be there all day. Fuel, Live. I don't know. It's just, I say that there's just nothing else to do here.
Right.
So
yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Is the Crocodile Rock, was that around that area where you're at?
Yeah, it's Allentown, so it's like 2 hours.
Okay.
Doesn't exist anymore.
So you're basically like 2 hours from everything, basically.
Yeah. So like the bands that are really from like my immediate area is like August Burns Red and Live is from York, Fuel's from Harrisburg. Like, so like it's kind of, there's like 4 cities in this area. It's Lancaster, York, Lebanon, and Harrisburg. And they're all kind of like a square. Nice. And I grew up in a town in the middle of that square called Elizabethtown.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Well, now that we have our geography lesson out of the way.
That's right, man. That's right. Now everyone can put a pin in the map and know exactly where we're at.
Yeah, and I know your struggle because I grew up in Nashville, and people to always be like, "Oh, Elvis, Graceland," and you're like, "No, that's in Memphis.
Yeah,
that's 3 hours that way."
Right.
So I totally just screwed up our geography lesson for the day. Great album out, man. Great album, loving it.
Thank you.
And just just everything going on around Panic. And one of my favorite things I learned today was you guys were about to make masks before masks were cool. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I thought it was funny because our guitarist, he's really into like anime culture and, Japanese culture and stuff like that. So I thought it was funny because he would always wear a mask like off stage, and his girlfriend who worked for us would wear a mask off stage, and our front of house guy and some of our crew, they'd be wearing masks. And a couple years ago, his girlfriend actually got us all masks. and they had like little, faces on them, like, zippers or teeth or whatever. And she's like, yeah, she's like, I wear these when I'm out in public or I'm on a plane and no one talks to me. So they started wearing these, not necessarily to get away from conversation, but as, a style or, just a fashion statement, or if they weren't feeling well, they would wear them, and it would stop people from talking to them, or they just made them feel like they weren't spreading some sort of sickness around or something like that. So, and they do that in Japan. So when we went to Japan, people were wearing masks a lot. Like if you don't feel good in Japan, you wear a mask. So when you would see someone wearing a mask, go, oh, that person's sick, stay away from that person. So they did this whole thing for culture and fashion. And then we had this idea to sell them in with glasses. So our glasses and this mask would make our emoji that we have that goes along with our songs or our albums. And the idea was become the show. And it was sell these at the door. People would put them on, and then we'd have this awesome idea to have the show. And that came up in 2019. It was like the middle of 2019. We're like putting this idea together. We're going to do this record. Once we release this record and tour on it, we're going to do this, become the show, sell the masks, sell the glasses, and then boom, COVID, idea destroyed.
So were they in production and had to stop because governments had to be like, hey, we need to take precedent, or what happened there?
Yep. So we were actually in the middle of producing thousands of these masks. And that's when it hit. And then we got a call from the manufacturer saying, hey, we kind of got to put your order behind and get all these other orders out first. So, yeah, so it got thrown back, and the whole idea was basically hijacked by a pandemic. So it was just we had this, what we felt was a brilliant idea. And it was like, wow, it was a little too brilliant. You know what I mean? Like we were a little too ahead of the curve on that one.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts, man. Pretty nuts to have that kind of foresight and not even knowing what you're doing. And I was just talking about this recently, but my wife and I flew to San Francisco back in February, and that's like when people were kind of starting to talk about this whole virus thing, and some people were starting to wear masks, and that's when you started kind of freaking out a little bit. I mean, obviously it wasn't until a month later to the lockdowns and stuff started happening, but the idea of people wearing masks was so foreign at that time. And then now it's like, I can't leave the house without it.
Yeah.
Man, you froze up.
I should be back.
There you are.
Hey. So, hey, the beauties of doing these things over Wi-Fi, man. But,
right.
But yeah, we were on tour with Skillet at the time, and we were actually touring through the West Coast in January, February, in that area when it, supposedly, I guess it happened earlier. I don't know. But supposedly, the Seattle area became ground zero. We were actually there. And then we went through LA. We met up with some people. And prior to that, we were in LA working on the album when it hit America. So in both of those time frames, I actually got sick. But the one when we were going through the West Coast tour with Skillet, everybody got sick. The entire tour package ended up getting sick. Actually, my bandmates, strangely enough, didn't get sick, but I did. And I'm not saying that I went and got an antibody test, and we don't need to get into the whole COVID thing, but just giving you a little story is I can remember when we went through Seattle and we went through LA, we ended up in New Mexico. And when we were in New Mexico, we stopped at the gym. The next day we were with friends and family in Oklahoma City. And that day I was like, man, oh no. You know how it feels when you get the flu?
Yeah. And
you're like, oh, there it is. That's the flu. I felt like that. I was like, oh man, I'm in the middle of a tour and here I am getting the flu. This is going to be the worst. So that night I told everybody, I was like, I'm getting the flu. I'm going to be super sick. I can already feel it. Stay away from me. The next day we played a show. I was dying. I was so sick. I was like, I told everybody on stage, I was like, I might die here today. I don't know. If I do, I love you. Thanks for coming. But I still played the show. And then the next day, the whole flu thing went away. I didn't feel sick anymore. The only thing I had was this chest congestion that lasted 2 weeks. So that whole story, and then, you know, fast forward several months later, and everyone's talking about all these COVID, like, symptoms that they have. I'm like, holy crap. Like, you know what I mean? I never got tested to see if I had antibodies, but I'm just like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things that you have in the back of your head. You're going, did I already have this thing? Like, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, I already had this. I know it. So It's just, so yeah, man, it's wild, man. Like the masks and the touring and just everything was just one big accumulation of holy shit. I mean, can I say holy shit?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. You can bleep it out, right? If it's on radio, I don't know how that goes, but yeah, it was just one of them things, man.
So what have you done basically for the last year? I mean, obviously talking to so many musicians, and you know, obviously they're off just kind of and you know, everybody's writing new albums and whatnot. So I mean, where are you at in all this?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of the same. I think the hard thing is with me with writing records is obviously you got to be in a certain headspace, and I use mood to affect how I write. Like I don't just, you know, a lot of people can just sit down and write and just like they're writing a story. You know what I mean? Kind of like I'm sure Bruce Springsteen, when he would sit down and write songs, like it was like, okay, Jimmy did this. You know what I mean? It was like he was writing a novel or a book. Me, everything is affected by mood. And this whole thing has affected my mood into the sense where it has made me feel a bit jaded. So it was like, you know, like what am I think at one point I started questioning, like, what am I even doing this for? Like, when are we going to go back and be musicians again? When are we going to go back to doing what we love? But I think I'm over that hurdle now. So now we're going to work on writing the next record. And, you know, it's tough. I think that anybody that is an entertainer was in a position or still currently in a position where they're questioning everything because there's no future in sight. Everything's uncertain in this side of the industry. So, you know, just busy work, try to stay busy, do interviews, just do some covers. We did some covers, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into the quarantine covers, man. I was really enjoying those. You know, the one thing being home, I mean, obviously you got family, you got kids, things like that. And to just kind of all of a sudden the, you know, revenue stream to stop like that. I mean, at one point, you know, you start going, do I need to go back to the, you know, cable company? You know, do I need to do that type stuff? You know, can I
get some homework on me? You know a little bit about me, huh? You got the kids and you got the cable company. I'm impressed, but yeah, man, I feel you. And that's the thought, you know, it's like, well, you know, you start asking yourself, like, can we make it through this? And luckily for us, I think we're at that level where our fans are supportive enough. They listen to us enough. They buy our merch enough. They do all that stuff to just get us by, you know, but it's like, you start asking yourself how long. And I think that, you know, one of the common misconceptions is and this actually happened to my wife and with some of her coworkers, like she was talking about how like it's a struggle for us because of, you know, what I do for a living and not having touring is the biggest part of income for musicians. I think most people know that, but if they don't, now they do by listening to this, that touring is our biggest part of our income. So what I was getting at is like, you know, she had mentioned to a few coworkers, like the struggle that it is being a musician right now and not having touring. And I think that some of the response to that was like, oh, but you know, look at how much money you make, or look at what you do, or look at what your husband does. And it's like, yeah, but you got to understand, like, could you imagine not going to work for a year?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, who can do that? And you can look at, like, you know, the amount of money that someone makes, but I mean, normally their expenses equal out to what they make. So it's like, sure, like, if we didn't end up going back to tour for 3 years, could we live in a lesser lifestyle and kind of, you know, and make it a little bit more basic than what we do? Sure. But then you have to give up everything that you did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's hard. The mental place and the financial place and just everything all together, being an entertainer. And I'm sure that most people feel this way. And I'm just more candid. I don't have a problem talking about it. I'm not scared to talk about it. Yeah. So, you know, I just feel like, you know, we are just kind of waiting to get over that hurdle.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I mean, kind of going into you're talking about, you had just had a kid when you got involved in the band and getting on the road. And one of the reasons I got off of the road was because I had a kid. And, I was like looking at the bank account going, these shows aren't paying the bills anymore.
Yeah.
And, you're getting calls while you're in a van or in a bus driving through Arizona and a kid screaming in the background. His mom is freaking out because there's no support system because you're gone. And, it's very, very, I guess that's the hardest time to tour and to start a band and to go on tour and things like that. And for you, to basically just start the family and then you're like, all right, I got to, we're going to do the band now. That's got to be, I guess, a testament to your wife and, just keeping it solid at home.
Dude, she should have left me 100 times. You know what I mean? Like, for a ton of different reasons. But I mean, I'm obviously kidding, but I mean, it is difficult. I mean, like, he was, I think, 4 or 5 years old when I started touring. So we were at a point where it was a little more manageable. It's not like he was an infant or a toddler, which, as a parent, you're a parent, right?
Yeah.
So as a parent, you understand what those years are like. So it was a little easier, but yeah, I mean, she was doing the single mom role, and it was a different version of it, and I was gone all the time. I mean, now I'm here all the time, but it's easier because he's 12. So
he's trying to take you out. He's like, Dad, I'm trying to play video games. Get out.
Yeah. He's like, Dad, I need something to eat. I'm like, cool, man.
Go
get something. You know what I mean? Like, there's the fridge. Make a sandwich, bro. But yeah, man, she's a trooper. She supported me from before this started. She supported me as is going on, and she continues to support me as it's moving along. So, and someone needs a champion in their corner like that. I needed someone in my corner every time that I decided, like you were saying, like in the beginning with like the vans and the RVs and stuff like that, and not making any money. I needed someone in my corner going, "You're gonna get there." Just especially with my personality, calm down. You're gonna get there. We're going to do this. And that's where we were before the pandemic hit. It was really awesome. Yeah. I mean, we were at a point as a band where it was like, you could see, like, we were going from, the opener that no one really kind of knew to the opener that everyone's like, yeah, I love this band as the opener, to the middle band. And, right before this, we were, the headliner in decent sized clubs and big venues like arenas and amphitheaters. We were direct support bands. So it's like, we did the grind. We went through the grind. We paid our dues. And right before the pandemic hit, we were right there. So it's like, we're ready, man, like to get back and see where we're at as a band, especially with this new record.
That's such a fun time to get into a band, when they are the big show opener and you get to watch them and they become your band. And so many bands, I mean, I got to see Korn open for Ozzy back in like 94 or whatever it was, like stuff like that. So like, that's when they were my band. And then all of a sudden they're everybody's band. So, I mean, a lot of people are going through that with you guys at this point now and can support the band. I mean, just even looking at YouTube views and things like that. I mean, you guys are killing it. When it comes to views and comments and, the fan engagement and all that stuff, man, it's a good time, in the band.
Yeah. And I talk about quite often, people consider us a new band. Like every time I see someone talking about, a particular thing with From Ashes to New, when they're not too familiar, especially in the world of radio and things like that, they're like, this new band. And it's like, for me, like we've been a band since 2013.
Yeah.
So, we're not new really at all. Like in the grand scheme of things, I mean, if you think about bands of this genre and like where they were at 8 years into their career, like if you think about bands like Linkin Park or Papa Roach or Disturbed or Korn, or you could keep going down the line, Slipknot, think about where they were 8 years into their career.
Yeah.
They were massive. So, for us to be 8 years into our career and people still think that we're new is awesome, because that gives our band so much more longevity. Like we have the ability to be able to continue doing what we're doing for the next 15 years because people still think we're new, So it's exciting, man. It really is. The future of this band is very bright. And we continue to make awesome music, and the chemistry of the guys in the band is incredible. So, I'm, like I said, really looking forward to the other side of all this craziness to see exactly what's going to happen with From Ashes to New.
So let's talk some cable company, because I do have one funny joke for you, or one funny anecdote for you. I'm assuming we're like in the truck side. You were going to the houses fixing things.
Yeah.
For about 3 months, I worked for Charter Communication Cable, but I was in the call center, so I was rolling trucks. And you'd be like, hey, they call in, be like, hey, I can't get my thing to work. I need somebody to come out.
Yeah.
I once rolled a truck because an old lady could not figure out how to program her remote.
Been there a million times.
So I'm assuming the tech on the other end of this call was just like, that motherfucker sent me out for this.
We love those calls.
Yeah,
we did. Like you would get a work order that would have like this very detailed thing about why it wasn't working, and then as a technician and being trained and doing those things, you could go, oh, that's an unprogrammed remote, or the best one was is TV not on channel 3. Like it was like, you know what I mean? Like those are the calls. And especially like when I started back in the day, they didn't have like all the technology, GPS followed us around, had all the stuff on our, iPhones or whatever. Like it was paper work orders. So It was like, you got a set amount of work orders a day. So, I could work an 11-hour shift with some overtime and really work like 4 to 5 hours of that.
Right.
Because I would get a call for program remote or, TV not on 3. The best one I had though is I went to this older woman's house, and you see all sorts of stuff when you do that job. Just mind you, like you're going into people's homes, so you see everything. And I've got stories for days as to some of my coworkers had seen and what I had seen. But I went into this lady's house, and it was piled up to, I don't know, probably almost waist high with garbage, the whole inside of the house. And she had a pathway like in the it was like she had shoveled it out with a snow shovel, and she had a pathway in the garbage as to how she would maneuver around the house. And the reason that she called was that the cable box, she had it on top of her television. It was like an old glass television. She had it on top of the television, and it fell off the back. And that was the reason she called, was for us to come back out and pick it up and put it back on top of the TV. And when I got there, I said, is there anything else that you need? And she's like, well, I lost my remote. And if you saw the house, you would assume as to why she lost her remote. I said, well, do you want another one? She said, no, that's okay. She said, just put it on channel 8 and leave it there. She's like, I'll watch that for a couple months.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, like you're just going to watch the same cable channel for a few months and then what? Call us back when it falls off the back again, have us switch the channel for you?
There you go.
But I mean, there's a million stories,
Yeah.
A wild job. It was actually kind of fun.
Yeah, some of the stuff you calls for. The one that always sticks out to me was a lady called in, and she said she sat down on her couch and her TV went off. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, it's on process. I'm like, what is that?
Sitting on that remote.
I was like, where's your remote? And she took a minute and she was sitting on it. I'm like, you really that was your first thing, was to call and wonder what happened with the rather than look for the remote first. But yeah,
at least it wasn't like that Larry the Cable Guy joke where he's like, every time I fart, the channel changes. You know what I mean? Like, well, you get that call, you leave.
22 minutes in, do you want to talk some music?
I don't know. I mean, if you want to, that's up to you, man. I talk music all day. I'm pretty good at it.
Well, that's good. The couple of quarantine covers I checked out sounded pretty freaking phenomenal, man. I was, Tears Don't Fall, one of my favorites. Obviously, Nightmare, another one of my favorites there, and you guys tackled it and killed it, man. So tell me about kind of just the rundown of doing those covers. Are you guys all recording separately and then doing the videos and things like that?
Yeah. So obviously, if we all played together on Zoom, it would be a nightmare because the timing.
Literally. Like
we would sound like that Bandits in the 5th grade, talent show. Yeah. If we did that, doing some Europe. But anyway, I
saw one of those the other day. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
It's probably the same thing. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it. But yeah, man, we're all in different areas. So we're not together. We're all in different states, different cities. So the idea was initially we were just going to do a few covers just to get through. We were like, hey, why don't we do like 3 or 4 covers just to kind of get through this pandemic, get out the other side? Because remember, in the beginning, it was slow the curve. And we're like, okay, a few months off, It's nothing big. We'll do a few covers. We'll get back out. And then one thing led to the next, and we're like, man, okay, I guess we're going to do more of these things. So we recorded them on our own. We recorded our parts, and then we sent them to Lance, our guitarist. Lance is, we all have our own studios and rigs, but he's got a pretty good ear for things. So we recorded our parts, sent them to Lance, did our videos as we were recording our parts, and put it all together and released it. And now we're actually in the middle of getting a few of them remixed so we can put them up on like Spotify and iTunes and stuff like that. If we put them up the way that they are right now, I'm sure that you're familiar with like the DSP compression. Like the compression would just obliterate the songs. So right now we're getting them to the point where they can actually be put onto these platforms so people can enjoy them every day rather than having to go to YouTube and watch the video.
Yeah, they've been pretty, they're pretty amazing. It seemed like, once again, just, trolling the comment section, trying to see what everybody else is thinking. Obviously, I mean, everybody seems to be on board, man. It's a lot of, it's good stuff. Yeah,
there's a lot of great comments. I think one of the things that makes it difficult is, and I talk about this a lot, and sometimes it pisses some people off, but it's kind of like how fake things are nowadays. Like, and not just with music, but with movie, video and photos, and not knowing if that's what an actual person looks like anymore, or not knowing if that's what they actually sound like. We did this so it was like a very live sound. Yeah. Sure, there was some editing because we put it in, to a computer and put it all together, but we did it as raw as we could to kind of give that live vibe. And I think that there's a little bit of like, you'll see a band and be like, oh, we did this live, and you listen to it and you go, that's not live at all. Like that's clearly like, studio programmed and all done. Like for us, it was like, how raw can we keep this without it, without it sounding like we were all together on a Zoom call trying to record this. And that's what we did with these songs to try and, kind of like that Nirvana Unplugged back in MTV when they were doing that stuff, like kind of give that vibe off.
So growing up, obviously you've got a very new metal sound to this band. So, I mean, what were your bands growing up?
Well, I mean, growing up, I was a hip hop fan first. So I mean, you name a rapper back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, that's what I was really into. Linkin Park was the first metal band that I listened to. And that was forced on me. So, I mean, I listened to metal before that because my sister listened to stuff like Metallica, and then the grunge era. She was a huge Green Day fan, not necessarily metal, but rock and punk. Yeah, yeah. So I had known those bands, but I wasn't really a big fan of that stuff. And then my buddy forced Linkin Park down my throat one day when we were swimming when we were kids, and he was huge into like Slipknot and Mudvayne and stuff like that. So I hadn't really understood those bands at that time. I didn't get it. Korn was already a really big thing, and all my friends were into Korn, and I didn't get it. I was into Eminem and Dr. Dre and Tupac and Biggie and Bone Thugs. So Linkin Park was my introduction to metal, and from that point, like I got it. You know what I mean? So kudos to that band for really taking a lot of people like myself and bringing us from rap over to to metal and rock. And then from that point, it kind of spiraled out of control. The first album I bought was Animosity by Seven Dust.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, I walked into the CD store to get Hybrid Theory, and Praise was playing over the speakers, and I was like, asked the person who worked there, I was like, what is this? And then they told me it was Seven Dust's new album, and I was like, Dad, that's the one I want. And I actually got that and walked out with that. But then it was just like anything I could find, man. Anything that was metal that I could find. I had like 600 CDs. So, I mean, if you talk from the, early 2000s up until, 2000, probably 15, I had pretty much everything in there.
You brought up Dr. Dre in there. And the one thing I've been thinking about lately, and I haven't really had anybody to bounce this off of, but how big metal is compared to rap, and everybody's always like, well, is metal dead and blah blah blah. But the one thing that I noticed was when Dr. Dre had his brain aneurysm, the amount of people from every genre that came out of the woodwork to be just like, get well, Dr. Dre. Everybody is feeling sad, sad for him and hoping the best for him. So it's that just kind of goes to show you, I think, right there, like how big that genre is compared to what we enjoy in the metal world.
Yeah, I mean, rap's huge, but I think I have a bit of a controversial take on that.
All right, go ahead.
And rap evolves. Rap and it evolves in a way that people enjoy it. I think that it stays true to its form, but offers something fresh as time moves along. Not only that, they work with each other. You know, rappers all work with each other. Pop stars all work with each other. It's a competition. Anything's a competition. When you get two quarterbacks on a team and there's a competition there, it's healthy though. Yeah. They're competing with each other to be the best that they can be. They're not competing with each other to destroy each other. And I'm not saying that is what happens in the rock and metal side all the time, but it does happen. And I'm also not saying that it doesn't happen in rap, because it does. Obviously, there's battles and there's beef and there's all that stuff. So, but I think that there's a lot of people pulling each other along. You'll see bigger artists trying to bring up these smaller artists and continue to freshen up that side of the industry, while our side of the industry is a little bit more stale. But at the same time, I don't think that the rock and metal side of the industry has necessarily evolved in the way that the fans want to see it evolve. So I think that there's kind of a catch-22 there, because, you know, I think that, and I think that we've been guilty of this as well. And I think about this in hindsight, because hindsight's clearer than obviously what you're looking at right now, right? So I think about this in hindsight. Was there a situation where we may have tried to include pop a little too much into our sound? You know, and does the rock and metal, everyday rock and metal fan really want pop music? Like, or do they want to hear rock and metal? Because if they want pop music, they can go listen to pop music.
Right.
And if they're listening to pop music, do they want their pop star to be screaming and be all metal with heavy guitars? Or would they rather just go listen to metal music? And I think that same thing exists. So blending genres, I think, is really, really difficult. And I guess what I'm really getting at to really sum the story up is that, you know, maybe rock and metal should stay away from so much pop and just kind of really hone in on that rock and metal sound and bring back that sound that everyone loves and enjoys.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying there. And I think a lot of guys that listen to metal, they don't evolve as much as, you know, because the 50-year-old metalhead probably not going to be a big fan of From Ashes to New. There's probably some out there, don't get me wrong, but that's not your demographic. Your demographic is going to be younger, because the 50-year-old guy didn't get into Linkin Park. He was like, that's too pussy. You know, it wasn't, you know, anything after 91, you know, it all sucks, you know. So the music doesn't evolve, but the fan also doesn't necessarily evolve either. You know, there's not a lot of people that continue to evolve in this metal thing. It's like, we listen to the metal that we liked when we were 14, and that is it. You know, a lot of that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily say that it's I guess I wasn't really trying to say that it didn't evolve or doesn't evolve. Yeah. I guess in some aspects it's not evolving in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think that the evolution is a little bit cloudy. I'm not sure that everyone has like a set vision as to where they want to go with this genre of music, and that makes it, you know, really hard for a fan to go, I like this band, I like this band. You know what I mean? Like, if you listen to pop music, it's basically just pop music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like they have like a bunch of different genres mixed up into one. Now, there's a few artists, Post Malone does it. Like, he'll mix some things up and people really enjoy that. But it doesn't get too far away from what he's doing to where a fan goes, I really don't like what he's doing there.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes, and again, From Ashes to New has been guilty of this. I think sometimes we get a little too far away. Like, we experiment a little too much. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't experiment, because we've done it. But I think that this side of the industry has a particular sound that they want to hear. And I think that's why you see a lot of the same bands headlining festivals like Disturbed and Korn and Slipknot and Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, Five Finger Death Punch is a great example. Those dudes are killer, and they found a sound, and boom, they stick with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they've created album after album after album that has had that same sound that their fans know and love. And I think that, you know, Disturbed does that. You know, there's a lot of bands in our side of the industry that rule with an iron fist that have found that sound. Breaking Benjamin, another great example, have found that sound and continue on with it. And look at their fans. Their fans are there. They're supportive. They're selling out arenas. You know what I mean? Like, they're huge bands. And I think that we can all take a page out of their book and go, okay, you know, what are they doing right? Because they're clearly doing something right.
Yeah, they're definitely connecting. I guess another thing on the evolve side of it, you're talking about hip hop evolving, and I just turned 41, and I'm to the point now to where my 15-year-old listens to the mumble rap stuff, the SoundCloud rappers, and I'm truly like the old man going, this isn't hip hop, this isn't rap, you need to listen to this, and handing him Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg or something like that, and I'm fighting my old man urges not to listen and actually enjoy it, and I'm trying to find certain things that I like in there. I'm trying not to be the old guy on the block, but yeah, it's definitely hard, man. It's definitely I understand now. I understand how my parents felt when I started with Metallica and Megadeth around. And
Yep.
This isn't Led Zeppelin,
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian household, so you can imagine the culture shock my parents had with Eminem. But I mean, I caught myself doing the same thing, especially with mumble rap.
Yeah.
Like, that, and I don't know if they like being classified as mumble rap, but I mean, like, they've obviously gotten, they've obviously drawn that comparison. But I did the same thing, and I'll give you a perfect example. Have you heard of the artist Lil Peep?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he obviously passed, but
they all have.
when he was rising, like, I didn't get it. I didn't even really listen to it because I knew what side of the industry he was on. The SoundCloud rapper is what they were calling, I guess, that genre. And I was like, I can't get into this. Like, this is not my thing. And my drummer, Matty, he's culturally appropriate. Like, he really knows, like, what's happening. I guess maybe culture appropriate is the wrong way to say it, but I'm not good with this stuff. But anyway, he knows what's going on. He's up with the trends, so he was like into that stuff, and I would give him shit for it. I'm like, dude, what are you listening to? And then one day I watched a documentary of Lil Peep on Netflix, and like, I like to watch musicians and like their growth and see where they came from and where they're going and how they got there. It's very inspiring to me. Yeah. So I watched it and I was like, man, like, this isn't the person I thought it was at all. Like, this was a troubled individual. Like, sure, he was young. Like, he was like 19. And it's like, sure, like, he was young, but he was troubled. And like, I think that all of us can relate to something in our youth that made us troubled. If not, maybe you're not human. I don't know. Right. But so I related to that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go listen to his music now. And I went and I listened to his music and I'm like, okay, all right. I know the person. I know the story behind the person now. I'm listening to the music and I'm like, you know what? I enjoy this. I actually enjoy this. So I actually got into Lil Peep because of that. And then and from that point forward, I went, you know what? Maybe I should not look at it the same way. Maybe there's something here that I don't recognize. Maybe there is something that, that culture recognizes that I don't, and I should give everything its fair shake. And then that reminded me of when I was younger in my teens, when, new metal, and I was into hip hop and I didn't like metal. That reminded me of that time where I was like, nah, metal, that's not for me. I'm not into that. I'm a rap fan. Screw metal. And then I gave it its fair shake and I went, oh, holy shit. I really like this. This is dope. So I kind of, went full circle, and now I don't really do that with anything. I just kind of try to give everything an open mind and open opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough thing. And I'll watch a documentary on any band ever, no matter how much I love or hate the band. And yep. I always walk away going, damn it, I kind of like them now.
Yeah. Dude, I did that with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
It was like the thing that was on Netflix. I watched that, I never got into her music. And sure, people are, going to castrate me for saying Taylor Swift's a good artist. But like, when you look at the backstory and you look behind the scenes and the amount of brilliance that goes into writing, because she writes a lot of her own stuff. And when you get that big, you got tons of people writing your stuff for you. You get the best of the best writing your stuff for you. So like, to be able to see what she was capable and is capable of doing was very eye-opening to me. It's going, you know what, maybe I shouldn't judge a book by its cover, or maybe I shouldn't judge a book by what people are saying about that book. Maybe I should read that book for myself.
Yeah. Taylor Swift, pride of Hendersonville High School. She's an alumni of mine, I guess, however you call that.
Okay, right. Yeah, she's actually from Pennsylvania. Do you know that?
Yeah, she's Pennsylvania. Then I guess she went to school in Hendersonville, Tennessee, which is where I was from. So yeah, hey, there we go. There's our connection right there.
There it is, man. Taylor Swift's our connection. That's crazy.
I once ran into her at a ice cream shop, and she was very nice and polite. She let me go ahead of her.
Did you physically run into her?
No, I was like,
I know.
Yeah, I would. I should have
actually checked her into the ice cream counter.
I was like, give me some of that Rocket Road. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome, and those are the type of people too that your preconceived notion of a Taylor Swift or a Justin Timberlake or any of those guys and gals. You're just like, they are in a factory. They walk in, they get handed lyrics, they sing them one time, then the computer makes it right, and blah blah blah. And then you watch a documentary, like there was one recently about the first Justin Timberlake solo album, and you see him and a bunch of dudes just sitting around jamming and like writing those songs and stuff. And you're like, all right, well, I guess they are artists. You know, not saying that Justin Timberlake's not an artist, but you just always assume it's guys in suits and, you know, Men in Black type things. Just, you know, here's the record industry in this box, you know, sign your life away or something. But yeah, it's pretty amazing to watch those type things. Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes for sure, man. Like so much that people don't realize. And, you know, even I don't realize, being in the industry for as long as I am, I'll still see something like, wait, what? Really? That happened? You know, so, you know, it's cool, man. It's cool to learn. It's cool to diversify myself, continue to expand my taste in music, expand my knowledge behind the scenes. And I think that that's one of the things that helps keep From Ashes to New, what people call us, a new band, is just to, you know, just stay open-minded, really. And I closed my mind off and got jaded there for a little bit, but I'm back out. I'm here.
Well, maybe if you would have called the band From Ashes to Old, then they would have think you were an old band.
Right. It's the new word. That's what it is. Like, wait, they can never be an older band. They're continuously rebirthing themselves.
There you go. I see you're wearing an Eagles hat, I believe. So let's talk. This will be out after the Super Bowl, so we can edit this twice, where that you were correct about the Super Bowl winner. But no, you know, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? You know, Super Bowl coming up, that just happened in real life.
Well, the Super Bowl just happened. I mean, my thoughts are that it's just the Chiefs. It's unstoppable. I think they're at the dynasty level. And regardless of what Tom Brady is capable of doing, because we all know wherever Tom Brady goes, Tom Brady takes to the playoffs or Super Bowl or whatever. I just think that the Chiefs are in dynasty mode right now. And I think it's
locked up there for a second.
Yep.
You there?
Yep.
All right.
I was just saying I'm happy for Andy Reid's. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. You got it?
Okay, cool. I was just saying I'm happy for Andy Reid's success. Honestly, like, being an Eagles fan, he deserves it. He's you know, he's went through the shit and he's come out the other side, and here he is getting his rings. So it's cool to see. Wish he was doing it with an Eagles hat on, but you know, he's doing it, and I'm happy for him.
So can you say that now that the Eagles have won? Like, if you had never won, you'd be like, you know, anti him getting his rings now?
No, I support people, man. I think that we do too much as people to tear each other down, you know? And like I said, I went through an area of being jaded where I just wanted to look at other bands and be like, oh, to hell with you. Why are you big? You know what I mean? And I think that I'm just as big a football fan as I am a music fan.
Me too.
So awesome, man. I mean, it's the two ways of life, if you ask me.
Right.
But yeah, so no, you know, I'm happy to see people succeed. I don't like seeing people fail. You know, I wouldn't want to fail. So if you're a good person, I don't want to see you fail. I want to see you win. If you're a shitty person, I want to see you fail. You know, that's how it works for me.
And I'm assuming you're like me in this one. You've been around enough musicians to where it's not, I mean, it's still cool when you're around your favorites, but it's not as crazy. But I mean, have you been around athletes and you get, you know, had any run-ins with any athletes? Because those kind of freak me out. Not personally.
I exchanged some DMs on Instagram with Brandon Graham, the linebacker from the Eagles. And it was like a fan had asked, like, who's your favorite football player or whatever? Who's your favorite Eagle? And I was like, you know, BG all day. Like, you know, his personality, his ethic. He's that Cinderella story. I love the fact that Brandon Graham was drafted #1 out of Michigan. Like, the first 2 to 3 years was not utilized properly. They were talking about how big of a bust he is, and should have went to the Pro Bowl the last several years. made it to the Pro Bowl this year. He was the one who strip sacked Tom Brady at the end of the Super Bowl to win the game.
Nice.
So it was like, his story is very inspiring. He's a hell of a personality. So I ended up saying, that in short and sweet. And then he ended up hitting me back and we chatted for a little bit. And like, for me, I was like telling my wife, I'm like, music, I was like, I could talk to really any musician and I'm not really going to have that, like that feeling, but for some reason, when I talked to BG, it was like, this is Brandon Graham. Like I'm talking to Brandon Graham right now. This is the coolest thing ever. So yeah, it was cool, man.
I once took some hockey players that were on the Tampa Bay Lightning out, like 4 of them out to a bar when they were in town and playing in Nashville. And I'd been in clubs with guys in bands all the time, and girls couldn't have given a shit.
Right. But
I took in these 4 hockey players, and like you could see it spreading. And then girls started coming to me like, "Hey, is it okay if I go talk to them?" And all that stuff, man. It was insane, the different energy that the sports guys brought, that the musicians bring.
We gotta fix this shit, man. Like we gotta fix it, bro. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the look. I don't know if it's the stigma. I don't know if it's the idea that musicians don't make money and they're traveling around in vans. Right. I don't know what's going on there, bro, but we gotta fix it.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been like the 80s or something, maybe if you brought in some rock stars and the place would blow up. But that stigma's not there anymore.
Yeah, we gotta fix this. We gotta put together a plan post COVID to fix this thing up, man. I noticed that you're a Titans fan.
I am.
I was a big Steve McNair fan.
Oh,
big.
Yeah, he was a monster. I was actually watching highlights of him the other day.
Yeah, I actually have a McNair jersey from when I was a kid. One of my school pictures wearing a McNair jersey. I didn't really when I was really young, I liked football, but I didn't really have a team. So my dad owned a sports card and memorabilia store growing up.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
So I was into it, man. Like I had, everything. It was great. It was spoiled in the sports card world, So I liked players, and I guess it's just my mentality. I always liked the players that didn't get a ton of exposure, but were really good. And Steve McNair was one of those players. That dude was made out of iron. Like he was, dude played with a broken sternum, for God's sakes. And unfortunately he's not with us anymore. And that was a very tragic story. But just the underdog story of Steve McNair, and them going, just so close to the Super Bowl, and the whole everything that happened. And Eddie George, I loved Eddie George as well. I was a big Eddie George fan, and it all stemmed from the Oilers and just kind of went over into the Titans.
Yeah, they would always talk about how he never once went in the weight room. He would just go home to Mississippi and work on his farm and to get strong. Steve McNair, and then that whole sternum thing, that whole season he slept in a chair because he couldn't lay down.
Dude, Superman, incredible. And that story is so inspiring. It's it's the will to, if you want to do something as a human being, nothing is going to stop you. Nothing. You just have to have that drive. And he had that drive, and it's just super inspiring.
Yeah, that was one of the few people that I haven't met. I met Eddie George back in the day and things like that. But yeah, that was one that I wished over the time, you could have met, kind of thing. And actually someone called into a radio station not too long ago, said that after a game, they were driving home and just stopped into KFC to use the bathroom and to grab some food. And behind him in line was Steve McNair, post game, right after the game. He's awesome. Yeah, I just wanted some chicken.
That's incredible, man. I would have been starstruck. And Eddie George is another story because, the dude was huge. He shouldn't have been a running back. He's 6 foot tall. What running back is 6 foot tall? What was he, 240? He was gigantic. And the dude's knees were made of glass. I can't imagine that he can even walk anymore. After his NFL career, he was just destroyed. So, it's just another inspiring story because, he played through so many injuries as well, knee injuries, and just the toughness and the grit of those two individuals, and them being teammates was just, it was electric. It was something that I was a big fan of. And got me away from being an Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman duo fan. I was, I was on the outside Steve McNair and Eddie George duo fan.
Nice. Yeah. The first game I ever went to was Christmas Day, Titans versus Cowboys, and Titans shut them out. But yeah, it was I think Emmett and Troy Aikman were both still playing and shut them out Christmas Day.
That's awesome, man. And anytime the Cowboys get shut out now, I'm a huge fan. A huge fan.
Well, good, man. Last thing I guess we'll do with the football is who's going to be your quarterback next year?
Dude, I hope it's Carson. I really do. I think, people were mad because he hasn't come out and said anything, about obviously all the controversy as the season ended and where it's at now with Jalen Hurts. But I hope it's Carson because I think that he has the ethic as well. I really do. Like, I feel like he will work to get to where he needs to go. It's just, I just think that he's a system kid, and it's like, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I think Frank Reich had him in the correct system and the way that they were using him. Same with like just him going out and then Nick Foles coming in, and it was like a seamless transition. You could tell that someone behind the scenes knew how to play to these guys' strengths. And I think over the course of the last year, it has definitely deteriorated, the coaching and the connection between the coaching and the player and playing to, the player's strengths. Not only that, getting him real skilled position players. Like, the dude has been playing with no skilled position players with the exception of Sanders. Sanders is an incredible talent. But I mean, there's no offensive line. They're constantly injured. There's no skill position players. I mean, like, you put anybody that's elite in that situation, they're really going to have a hard time. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine Tom Brady not having an offensive line? I mean, what would he do if he had a guy in his face every time? Would he still be the Tom Brady that we see today? Or would he be somebody different?
And that was a lot of the end of the Patriots run was he didn't have as many players around him, and he looked like a 40-something-year-old quarterback.
Yep.
Now he goes to Tampa, gets a bunch of weapons, and all of a sudden he's fountain of youth Tom Brady.
Exactly, man. And I think that you can see the same thing with Carson Wentz. And it's funny, I will dial back a little bit. When the Eagles when Andy Reid drafted Nick Foles, it was the third round, and everyone had passed on Foles, even though he had broken all of Breeze's records in Texas and all the stuff that he did. Everybody passed on him. When they drafted him, I was like, okay, his footwork is not necessarily there. He's a little slow. I was like, but this dude's arm, I was like, he's going to be the guy. I literally said this when they drafted him. I was like, Nick Foles is going to be the guy who brings the Eagles that ring. It gets him the trophy. And, they traded him, and I was like, well, I guess there that goes that. Like, that's not going to happen. And then they brought him back, and he got him the ring, and I was like, this is crazy, man. Like, I knew that guy had something special if he was put into the right system. And I think that, that's what Andy Reid has always done well. And I think that's what happened, what you're seeing with Mahomes. Mahomes is just in the right system. And you put these guys in the right position to win, and it happens. I mean, could you imagine taking your favorite singer from your favorite band and putting them in a different band? It might not work.
Right.
Oh, so, yeah. I mean, it's chemistry, my man. And then you're seeing that with the Chiefs, and I hope that we can get back there with the Eagles.
All right, man. What's the future from ashes to new? From ashes to new.
World domination, my man. I mean, I don't know. Just stay busy, stay working, continue to progress, continue to grow. I mean, we've got some ideas for more new music coming forward and are going forward, and it's just continue to evolve our sound, but at the same way, keep it nostalgic. I think is what we're gonna aim for.
And then with the, Danny Wimmer stuff kind of popping up with festivals kind of popping around, there does seem to be some sort of light at the end of this tunnel.
I mean, one would like to hope so, right? I mean, we're talking about it. So, I mean, there's nothing there that's visual proof, but I mean, we are talking about it. So that's the first step. And hopefully we progress to the second step and get there. I think that not just, the bands, the musicians, the artists, but I think that the fans need it, man. I think that everybody needs their fix, right? And we're long overdue.
And on this Retaliators film, I saw that you guys did the song, but are you a part of the actual movie?
We are ourselves in the movie.
Okay.
So we are just playing. We're like, We're like that. We're not like From Dusk Till Dawn, where the band gets shredded up and turned into guitars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We actually make it out because the movie is like a, horror thriller. So a lot of people die. We are fortunate enough to live. So I'm pretty happy. I'm giving that part away. From Ashes to New does not die in this movie, which my wife was pretty happy about, because when we were originally cast to do the movie, she was like, "Are you going to die?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, originally the idea was that we were going to be murdered. And it was like, she's like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, if I'm going to be able to watch my husband get killed, I don't know if I can do that. And I was like, when she found out that we weren't, she's like, all right, good. That's good. You're not dying in this movie.
Wow. Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun, man. I was watching some of the trailers before we talked, and seeing Chris Kale and all those guys in it too. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun once it's out. Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I've seen clips and pieces, but we'll see. I'm excited to see it.
All right, man. And just throw out some plugs, man. What is the best way to follow you and in the band?
You can type in From Ashes to New literally anywhere, and you'll find us, except for TikTok. I think someone owns that. We got to the TikTok game a little late, and someone else took our name and started posting videos and stuff. But I mean, whatever. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. But yeah, so everywhere it is From Ashes to New. TikTok, it is FATN official.
You're gonna have to go after that TikTok guy and try to get the name back.
We tried. We tried. I don't know exactly what's happening there, but we're growing it where we're at. Like I said, we're late to the TikTok game. I was part of the crowd that was like, I don't get this shit. I don't want to be, you know what I mean? And it's like, in my side of the industry, I think I got to be a little bit more open-minded to ways to reach fans. So, finally started kind of getting into it, and the quarantine covers that we did are doing pretty well on TikTok. So it's pretty cool to see.
So what you need to do is, when your son comes home from school or however you're doing it every day, be like, what's the next thing? What's the new? Because they're going to know before any of us do.
He's on Roblox 24/7, man. That's what the game's called.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My kids are on that too, that and Fortnite and all that stuff. So if you can get, in Roblox, there you go.
Just get one of our songs in Roblox. I'm not sure that I don't even know what's kid appropriate and not anymore, honestly. So I really don't know what works. Back in the day, metal was like, that's not kid appropriate. Nowadays it's like, metal, we should put that in G TV shows. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what's what anymore. I'm completely confused, man.
Up is down, left is right. Dogs and cats are getting along. It's crazy.
Culture shock, my friend. Culture shock.
Well, Matt, man, this has been a blast, and hope you had fun yourself.
Hell yeah, man. Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Huge thank you to Matt for coming on the show. Like we said, we got our Super Bowl predictions wrong. Congratulations again to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And as always, guys, make sure to head over to cmspn.com, rate, review, subscribe to the show. You can review this show right on the cmspn.com webpage. So go over there, let all the other shows know that you're listening and watching this show, and let them know what you think about my show, my new metal show, talking to some new metal guys. It's been a lot of fun, so head over there, cmspn.com, or you can hit it through talktoomeypod.com. Let them know what you're thinking about the show, this episode, and everything that we do here at the Talk To Me Podcast. So until next Wednesday, for the Talk To Me Podcast, I've been Joshua Toomey. Thank you guys for checking out the show.